10 reasons you need to watch the UFL in 2026. With the Seattle Seahawks winning the Super Bowl just days ago, that left the football community saying it's going to be a very long 7 months without football. But we all know that's not even true. Even if you're new here to the channel, you know that is just not true. Yes, 7 months until the NFL kicks back off, but we know football is king in America, and we get the experience the United Football League, the UFL, kicking off on March 27th, 2026. So today, we'll be breaking down in detail why you should absolutely need to be watching the UFL in 2026. And when I say watching the UFL, I don't mean just casually, not just watching the highlights. I mean really paying attention and following the league, because this upcoming season, at least in my opinion, isn't just another spring football season. It's not just another UFL season. It feels like an inflection point that we are currently hitting. And when leagues hit inflection points, things change fast. So let's dive in to those reasons to get you all prepared, or maybe get you involved with the UFL in 2026. Reason number one, the Prove It season. When Mike Rapoli took over operations, he made it clear that he was going to make this league a personal project and would call it a failure in 10 years, a personal failure, that is, if we did not have double the amount of teams in 10 years, 16. And he said that he had rather have a league that has a 1% chance of surviving than one that has 99% chance, because he loves the challenge. And as a massive business person who has had a big track record when it comes to success with all his businesses he's done, this personal project of his is something that I almost feel we saw out of Vince McMahon heading into the 2020 XFL season. Someone who was willing to put up a lot of money of their own to truly make football a year-round thing. Mike Rapoli wants to come out and prove exactly what he's been preaching since taking the league over, and that is he is not satisfied with average of what previous leagues and even the UFL itself was doing prior to this season. He is trying to build something sustainable, and that is no longer a experimental league at this point. It's not something that's like, we'll see if it works. It may fail, it may not. It's something that is in the establishment mode to ensure football is in our homes nearly year-round, and it does not stop when the NFL is done. Now, of course, we could see a schedule change next year where we get kickoff the week after the Super Bowl. That is a strong possibility that's being talked about. But we get to see some really an innovative, quality, and exciting fan-first football, which is what Vince McMahon tried to do back in 2020 with the XFL. I think we're starting to hit that sweet spot, if you want to call it that, of the UFL heading into 2026. So let's go into reason 2, relocation and expansion buzz. Let's talk about it. The elephant in the room that has been something we've talked about since the beginning of July, shortly after the UFL 2025 season ended, and that is relocation and expansion buzz. Both of these topics alone are hot button topics when it comes to fans alike, whether it's on social media, here on YouTube, whatever the case may be. In 2024 and 2025 with the UFL, we saw how a team in the wrong city can struggle for years, and a team in the right city can explode overnight. In 2026, we know that the league has moved into very football-hungry markets, stadiums that are better suited for attendance visuals, and regions with less sports competition in those cities. This alone instantly improves the atmosphere, and the atmosphere, as Rapoli stated, changes the TV product and the product in person with attendance. As we know, fuller stands equal better optics, which leads into stronger perception from people who have been questioning the league for years and years and years. It's empty. I mean, Mike Rapoli himself questioned the league when he put his money into it of like, hey, it looks like we're watching a game from the pandemic era. This is not acceptable. We've got to get fans in seats. We've got to get smaller stadiums. We've got to make it look like it is a well-oiled machine. And that's kind of what we're getting, because if we can get a great buy-in from the casual fans, the UFL is just going to work long-term in that way. This overall strategy isn't just about adding teams, but it's about placing chess pieces strategically to successfully advance the league into things spring football just hasn't been before. And I think the UFL has a strong possibility of doing that. And we'll talk about that here in a little bit with one of the other reasons. But I think we're on the verge of something very special here. Reason number 3, rule flexibility equals competitive advantage. Here is something fans don't think about a lot when it comes to spring football over the years, and that is the NFL isn't a league that can really experiment easily. It takes so many hands in the cookie jar to vote new rules and regulations from the very top down, whether it's the commissioner, all the owners of each team. I mean, there's 32 teams, so you take into consideration you have to have a majority vote to even get something going. We know that with like the dynamic kickoff that the XFL created in 2020, that is now in the NFL. That took a very long time to get approved, but again, the UFL is able to do this stuff all up front without having to have all those ownerships of teams and voting and all this type of stuff, which to me equals power for the UFL. If the league picks back up where the XFL did in 2020 and 2023 with innovation and really leans into it without getting too gimmicky, as we've talked about, whether it is the pace of play, kickoff tweaks, conversion formats, replay systems, or as we've heard recently, the innovation of how to score points is a reward for all audiences looking to get smash mouth high scoring games that have parity to them. That's the big thing here, is parity with these games. If we can see that from the league, despite the fact high scoring, we still want some defensive games. Let's not get wrong. But I think that's where we kind of look at the whole picture here. So if when the UFL releases its rules here soon, if the games are faster, higher scoring, less bogged down by delays, and more aggressive in late game scenarios, I think this will add not only to the replay value, but the excitement of the game itself. Again, going back to your casual football fans who can tune in and get hooked immediately. And that, going back to that replay value, that is one thing I will say. With the XFL in 2023, USFL 2022, 2023, and then the UFL 2 seasons, I have really not gone back and watched any game really at all. I have not gone back and watched any game. But I can tell you right now, out of the 20 games that we got in 2020 in the XFL, I have watched those games over and over and over. They have replay of like just the overall aspect of the game has replay value to it. And I know I've heard this from a lot of people. They've gone back and watched XFL 2020 games, either on YouTube or wherever they can find them. And that excitement, that joy, the fans, I think that's what we're about to get here in the UFL. So one thing I want to note here and take a second is to state that if you love football, but complain that it feels too corporate or too fixed or too predictable at times, that's where the UFL comes into play. With a lot of stuff they're trying to experiment with, and how 2026 might be that season, like we saw in 2020 with the XFL, where it becomes its identity. I think this is something to take a step back and realize that, hey, this is a greater option for spring football than we've ever had before. And I think that it's going to make it very exciting with the new teams, new identities, new stadiums. There's so much to this league in 2026 that we haven't seen before. Then we go to moving along. Reason 4, the talent pipeline is getting stronger. Let's talk about players because without them, we don't have a game to watch or play. The approach that Mike Rapoli has taken with the shakeup of talent and bringing in new faces and also allowing former talent to continue their journey in the football world, we can now see that we are getting former Power 5 starters, high draft picks who need a reset, NFL practice squad standouts, and of course, we can't forget about coaching staffs. Well, a lot of people have not been so fond of all the brand new head coaches and whatnot. We've got to remember everybody starts, or everyone starts from somewhere. And this is a perfect opportunity, the league of opportunity. We cannot forget that just alone this past NFL season, we saw over 10 head coach jobs open up. Head coaches were fired, they resigned, whatever the case may be. Where in the UFL, we actually only had one head coach end up continuing from last season with their team, and that was the DC Defenders head coach, Shannon Harris. The league is giving opportunity to first-time head coaches, and to some of those have never had coaching experience before. But they are getting to show off their talent and built rosters and coaching staffs that could end up being championship material. This goes from the players to the coaches across the board, which the league this year has truly put the pedal to the metal with and is giving us some very interesting storylines heading into a brand new season of the UFL. As the league stabilizes, talent quality improves. Why? Because players want a platform that's sustainable. If the UFL provides or proves long-term viability, better players choose it, and that in the end creates a massive cycle, and it keeps rotating. Better players, better games, better ratings, better product. And in 2026, this is where this cycle can most likely kick in and will kick in. I have no doubt about that. I think that when we look at players and coaches, there's going to be some failures from these new head coaches. But some of the staff that they have brought in under them, offensive coordinators, defensive coordinators, quarterback coaches, you name it, offensive line coaches, whatever the case may be, they have built enough around them that I do think, along with the players they've got, I mean, look at AJ McCarron. A lot of people criticized AJ McCarron. They don't like him, whatever the case may be. But you can't deny he has built up a team again that could prove that the Birmingham Stallions continue, without Skip Holt, to be a force to be reckoned with. And I think that's what they're trying to create down there in Birmingham with AJ McCarron and his coaching staff and everything like that. So I think that's something to watch and keep your eyes on as the season goes, which to me brings in more fans. It brings in the casual fans when you have these storylines that continue to build up and everything. So let's go ahead and move on to reason number 5. The league is small enough to feel intimate, big enough to matter. So this is a very underrated thought process at this point, but is truly the case. The NFL is a massive league where the UFL is digestible, currently at least. We'll say that because success and growth can cause that kind of to shift a little bit depending on how you handle the fan experience. So let's run down all these ways. In the UFL, you can realistically know every starting quarterback, their story, their background, understand every playoff implication, especially this year with no more conferences. And it's just going to be the top 4 teams getting into the playoffs. This will create possible championship matchups that was not possible in the past. Like rival teams, the DC Defenders against the St. Louis Battlehawks could be a championship game. That has never been able to be possible going back to when they started as teams back in 2020 in the XFL, because they are always in the same conference. Then, of course, tracking roster changes daily and weekly. So far, This year in the offseason, the roster changes have been daily updates from the UFL communications department on social media. Now, if they can keep this up during the season, including accurate depth charts in a timely manner, etc., this will be the best way they can create an emotional investment in the league for not only media, but for fans alike. When fans feel informed, they feel ownership. And when fans feel ownership, they defend the product, they show up as fans, and 2026 is a perfect time to jump in before it gets bigger. It's like investing early for a huge fan profit down the road. And we can't let's talk about this intimate setting that reason 5 is all about. Let's talk about the fan rallies that just happened or the one that's coming up in Dallas on Sunday. You get to meet your team players, head quarterbacks, head coaches. These are things that are very rare in the NFL. They happen, but they're not as open to the public. You don't get to see behind closed doors that often. Where in the UFL, you do. I mean, mic'd up players on the sidelines. That's something spring football has offered a lot in. Knowing what is happening during the game with headsets and the mics never being turned off during the game. There's so much around this where, as a fan, you can get very invested in the players, their stories, and you can also meet them, and it doesn't feel like you're being bombarded by security teams and things like that. I think this is a huge reason that will stick with people long term compared to just another football league or whatnot. Reason 6, the championship optics will signal the league's direction. Now, this may be a little bit of a weird one, but when I was writing this stuff, I was thinking, like, we've seen the championship game optics, even going back to 2023 with the XFL in San Antonio, just wasn't that great. And as I mentioned in the last reason, I feel that the change from your traditional conferences in spring football and going with the top 4 teams in the league advancing to postseason will change the optics of the championship and signal the league's direction towards that sustainability we spoke about earlier. If the league can take the championship game out of St. Louis, where it has been the last 2 years, and move it to a market like DC at Audi Field, that we've heard is potentially where it's going to be, and really promote the league enough that regardless of the defenders return to the championship to defend their title, I think this is a location where they can really have an opportunity to have a stadium where it's full and loud by bringing more casual fans into the league up front and entice fans from all over the league to come to the championship game if their team makes it or if their teams don't. Again, championships are not just games, they are statements. And the crowd size, stadium choice, and all of that communicates confidence in your product. In 2026, the championship should, and in my opinion will, feel elevated compared to previous years. That will signal an upward momentum, and momentum is contagious. Can't forget about that. It is very contagious. One strong postseason can redefine an entire league, the league's narrative heading into 2027 and beyond. Moving on to number 7. 2026 is about momentum, not survival. This reason alone proves to me we are heading towards another stage of spring football experiment, if we even want to call it that anymore. I said that earlier. I don't know if that word works anymore. We head into the 5th consecutive season, technically 6 if you are counting the USFL and XFL completed seasons in 2023. The key difference this year is in the early years, we're about, can this work? We're in momentum years are all about, this is working. And when you pause and think about those statements, it's exactly what I feel like we are seeing heading into the 2026 season. This is working. It's not no longer, oh, the league is on life support. This is a be all do all year for them. If this doesn't work, it's going to fail. We've not heard that at all from anyone. I know we've heard that in previous seasons, even going back to right after the merger, they didn't know if it was going to work. Then season 2 hit for the UFL, and that was like the make it or break it year. And well, we know that's not the case. It may have been if Mike Rapoli didn't come in, but I still don't think that's actually the case. Um, and again, like I said, when momentum hits at the right time, the league grows faster than people expect, which is what we are seeing, especially with Rapoli not pumping the brakes at all, and even discussing 2028 as the year the league grows with expansion to 10 teams. These are all momentum boosters that continue to happen with Mike Rapoli at the helm of being basically the business operations side and being that co-owner with everyone else. So reason 8, the business side is getting smarter. Here is something casual fans overlook when we discuss the UFL and any spring league that's led the way in the past, and that leagues don't fail because of football. That's being played on the field. We've got to remind that, because if you look back at any of these leagues, it's not about the play on the field. You hear some people saying that occasionally, that the play is not that great, but in general, when we're talking about failure, it's because of business. 2026 has already shown that it's the year of the UFL. And it's because it's tightened its business model, in which, in my opinion, in return, we've seen smarter budgeting when it comes to relocated markets and stadium leases. More calculated relocation and expansion decisions have and are in play currently as the league continues to grow. And we cannot forget that they went towards leaner operations, whether it was with coaching staffs, GMs, etc. If Mike Rapoli and company is doing deep evaluations and making the structural adjustments we've seen so far, that's a sign they're building sustainability and not chasing headlines that doesn't turn into fans or even turns off fans. I think they're doing complete opposite of that. I think that most of their decisions that the league has made and it's brought in may not always be positive, like looks, but in general, you still have a lot more people talking about the league than you did before. And I think that's creating that buzz, then turns into fans and whatever the case may be. What we are seeing here is turning into better local fan engagement and interest in the league that had a lot of questions heading into 2026. Instead, it seems Mike Rapoli has steered the league on the right course finally. Move on to the final 2. Reason 9, the broadcast and digital presence leveling up. When it comes to the broadcast aspect, we know right off the bat there is something that fans have talked about for the last few seasons, and that is when games are airing at the same time and are regional based on Fox. We saw that quite a bit, even going back to the XFL in 2023, UFL in 2024 and 2025, where games were booked at the exact same time. It was regional based. You had to find out what game you were able to watch. It was, to me, it's a disaster. When we look at the league's 2026 schedule, I noticed right off the bat, there was not one game that overlapped another. Well, yes, there are new nights that we have not seen recently in the UFL, airing games on Thursdays and Tuesdays, which remains to be seen how that correlates with attendance and TV ratings and things like that. Let's break this down, the league schedule, based on days of the week we see. So there's obviously 10 Friday night games, 14 Saturday games, 15 Sunday games, 1 Tuesday game, and 2 Thursday night games. Overall, we have 17 games on Fox, 10 games on ABC, 7 games on ESPN, 3 games on ESPN2, and 3 games on FS1. Which, the more over-the-air games, as we've talked about for years on ABC and Fox, the better. But the big thing is this year is that no league had prior to this season is the new deal between Fox One and ESPN Unlimited streaming bundle or streaming apps that have created a bundle where for $40 a month, you can get all the games streaming and only end up paying around $169.28 for the 4 months and can cancel after that if you don't want the bundle. I think this is a great option instead of having to pay a cable TV package provider or only getting to watch 27 games on over the air if you don't have any of those options. I think this will be a great way for fans to get involved in the league and actually get to watch it and not miss anything or miss the action. Because again, that's a cheap option when you really take in consideration how much like YouTube TV is, Xfinity or Comcast like TV packages, Direct TV, whatever the case may be. Yes, you get a lot more channels, but you're still paying almost double, if not triple that, when it comes to actual services that these providers do. This is not the case here. And I think that's one thing that can really help give a lot more options this time around to watch the league on a consistent basis. And then we got to go to the final boss, the final reason you need to watch the UFL in 2026. And that is you're watching a league at a turning point. This might be the biggest reason of them all. Most fans only jump in after something is well established. When the UFL becomes a stable, long-term football property, and I will tell you right now, right here, I truly believe it will, and it is. We'll finally get over the biggest hump of them all, and that surpasses even the USFL in the 1980s with how successful and the length this league exists. I truly think we all look back at 2026 as being that year the league pivoted with the right owner in charge, making the right decisions, and finally moved the needle in the right direction. This year, in my opinion, that the marketing strategy improves greatly. We've seen that in local markets already. Talent stabilizes, confidence becomes more viable, and then it just goes up from there. The outpouring support of the league so far, with just the new cities and even a lot of the returning cities, really shows that we are on the right track. And this is really compelling story, whether you're a new fan to spring football or you've been here the entire time, going back through heartbreaks, up and downs, closures, bankruptcies, all this type of stuff we have experienced as fans with spring football. And this is why you should join us all in this community and support spring football. In closing, let me say this clear as can be. 2026 isn't just about touchdowns and standings. It's about direction, and it's about whether UFL becomes a long-term football institution. And if you really are a true football fan, I just put it this way, and not just a fan of the NFL, and think there is no other league out there, don't just sit back and watch finished products wash away, but watch the game grow. Be part of that growth. We're at, again, a turning point in the right direction for spring football. And we all get to say one day, we were all part of it. 2026, in my opinion, despite being a little skeptical at times, I think 2026 will be a very, very special season. Before we go, I will be doing giveaways for the DC Defenders and the St. Louis Battlehawks game. That is game 2 of week 1. I have given out tickets to week 1. I am still waiting for that person to claim their tickets. I have sent them it. I've emailed them. They have not claimed them. I am not going to move forward with another giveaway until these are secured and they are activated. So if you won the tickets to opening night for the Louisville Kings, Please make sure, check your email. You should have an email from Ticketmaster to accept the tickets. Please make sure to get this done ASAP. I may, if I have to, I'll have to move on to another person in that list to give these tickets to, just so we're not waiting around. And they're sitting in my Ticketmaster account. I want to make sure these get transferred appropriately and someone actually gets to go to these games and enjoy opening weekend. So thank you for that. But let's pull up this, because without members of the channel, we cannot thank them enough. Steven Johnson, 5398, Lupe Lyons, 517, Mitchell Still, Sport Radical Habits, David Perez, M70, 9 Ball Chris, Little Cam 51, DJP16, Dustin Ward, 8540, Clyde R. Emerson, Ralph Kun, 2291, Cheesy Capitals fan, Yara, Fred Smith, 7964, Appleman, 20, Sectors, 1019, Domcha, 7849, Steven Sharon, 113, Denzel, Season 25, I, Caleb Gordon, and Charlie JDK. Thank you again for all being members of the channel and supporting us for only 99 cents. That's all it takes to support the channel, and that allows me to give back to the community and just help grow the league in general. I did want to say as well, I did finally hear back from UFL Shop about my Birmingham Stallions order and the shirts and the misprint and stuff like that. They say they're working with their vendor. They get something, a replacement sent out. We'll see how that goes. I don't know if that's the case or not. I've heard a lot of people across social media talk about getting emails finally. So the league is starting to go in the right direction in that way. Hopefully we get more merch as time goes on too, because man, the clock is ticking. We are just about at this point a month and a half away from kickoff. Training camp starts later this week. And of course, can't forget, we're still waiting on rules and uniforms. Stay tuned to the channel if you haven't done so already. Hit the subscribe button, hit the notification button, because it is going to be a busy few weeks heading into the season. And of course, the season kicks off. It is going to be nonstop action here on the channel. Make sure you're a part of it, and make sure that you share this video with anybody that you think would like the UFL and watch it in 2026. And I'll see you on the flip side. Have a great one, everyone.